Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talk About, the weekly news show where I, Alex Brown, talk about the latest gaming headlines from the past week with you. Today's headlines include details on the next Nintendo console, rumors of an Oblivion remake, and Jedi Survivor being ported to last-gen consoles. I'll be discussing all of this and more on today's episode of Talk About. And then this is the part where if I had a really cool intro, it would play and it would be a really cool moment for everyone involved. But I don't have an intro, so we're just going to dive straight into the news stories this week. And we're going to start off with the biggest news story, which isn't a news story from any of the journalism outlets. It's the biggest news story. It's from me personally, straight from my mouth. And that's progress on the next video essay I've been working on. I know, big news, I know, breaking news, some might say. And it's been going very, very well. I just thought you guys might enjoy having the occasional update on it every now and then, which is one of my favorite things about doing Talk About every week, because I can keep you guys up to date on the goings on around here. And it's going really well. It is, I want to call it content complete in a way that all of the video is edited together and put together, but I'm doing some fine tuning, some transitions, some cool audio design behind all of it. You'll see it when it comes out. I'm really putting in the work on this one. It's I think I am ready to. I'm in a place where I can put a release date on it. But, don't hold me to it. It could get delayed. Who knows? You know how the gaming industry works. And I'm adjacent to that. Delays happen frequently. But I am fairly confident in saying it'll be released on August 16th. So mark your calendars for that. I'm going to do a YouTube premiere and everything for that one. Because it's a big deal. So much of a big deal to me that I'm considering rebranding it as not a video essay and instead calling it a special presentation. And, I know I mentioned doing special presentations as side projects, SPs, but maybe I'll swap those around and do video essays shorter, more compact, and special presentations. I go all out. I don't know. I'm still working it out behind the scenes. You'll see what it is when it comes out. I'm still deciding that behind the scenes. But now to the lesser news stories of the week. We turn our eyes to VideoGamesChronicle.com, which is a very reliable source. Very reliable. I very much appreciate them for all their news articles, and I would recommend you guys check them out as well. But we turn to their site for the top news story of the week, besides my own news story, of course. Nintendo targets 2024 with next-gen console. This is written by Andy Robinson from Video Games Chronicle. And it reads as follows. Development kits for Nintendo's next console are now with key partner studios, with launch planned for next year, sources have told VGC. According to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans, the company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024 to ensure that it has ample stock available on day one and to avoid the kind of shortages seen with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S. Although specific details on the next-gen console are being kept closely guarded, those VGC spoke to indicated that the next-gen console would be able to be used in portable mode similar to the Nintendo Switch. Two sources VGC spoke to suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED in order to bring down costs, especially considering the increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. Like its predecessor, the new Nintendo console will also accept physical games via a cartridge slot, the sources said. Other details such as backwards compatibility support for Nintendo Switch games and physical and digital remains unclear. Nintendo has said it wants to convert as many of Switch's 100 million plus user base as possible to its next system. Although some third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of the next-gen titles. Nintendo did not immediately respond to VGC's request for comment on this story. All right, so there's a lot there. Let's break it down. All right, Nintendo Switch. Everyone and their mom's got one, okay? There's two in my very household, okay? It's a big deal. People love the Switch. But obviously the biggest sticking point for a lot of people who play games outside of just their Switch is that it's just not as powerful as you would want it to be compared to other platforms out there on the market. And everything that they're saying is good, having more power and still being essentially a Switch, but more powerful is all that it needs to be, in my opinion. The fact that it's still portable is, great news, of course, but the fact that they are unsure about the backwards compatibility at this point is a little concerning, considering I'm sure a lot of people are still going to be playing a lot of the Nintendo Switch games, such as Tears of the Kingdom or Super Mario Wonder at the end of this year. Although, if it comes out at the end of 2024, maybe people are less inclined to stay with these games. Who knows? I just feel like I would prefer it to be backwards compatible so I can play those same games, but, probably at a higher frame rate and better resolution, that sort of thing. Things that I would enjoy, things I'm used to playing on PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, things everyone's used to at this point. But I could definitely see them gating off backwards compatibility to essentially double dip on the Switch catalog of games, much like they did with the Wii U. Although a lot less people, bought a Wii U. But I could see them doing like a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild pack, deluxe edition, and then charge a full $70 on that to get people to pay for it again. And then maybe they don't release a new Mario Kart 8 version, instead have Mario Kart 9. Who knows? Okay, who knows what games are coming out on this thing? Probably every Nintendo franchise is getting a new version on that title, on that platform, on the new Nintendo platform. But what are they going to call it? That's what a lot of people are wondering. What are they going to call this? Are they just going to call it Nintendo Switch 2? Because that's the boring answer, in my opinion. I think they should harken back to their classic roots and call it the Super Nintendo Switch, because that just has a nice ring to it. No Switch 2, that's boring. No Switch X, that's weird. We have enough X in our lives. So just call it a Super Switch. It's clean, and it's like the Super Nintendo. Great. Clean, lovely, perfect, great. That's all we need. Don't overthink it, Nintendo. Just please call it the Super Switch, and I'll buy it day one if it's available, okay? Just don't overthink it. But back to the launch lineup. What do you think is going to be released here? I do hope obviously they can't have another Zelda game ready by the time it comes out, because Tears of the Kingdom just came out. And I'd imagine Metroid Prime still makes the Switch console. Metroid Prime 4, that is. So it begs the question of what is going to be on it. I hope they re-release Tears of the Kingdom, because that'd be a great time. I'd like to play that game all prettied up, high resolution, high frame rate, all the bells and whistles. And everyone's going to buy it. Come on, Tears of the Kingdom. Who doesn't love Tears of the Kingdom? I personally think that by the time this Switch successor comes out, they'll probably have a new 3D Mario game ready, because Odyssey came out in 2017? 2017? Yeah. 7 years ago. By that point, what have they been working on, that team, huh? Put out a new Super Mario 3D. People buy it, sell like gangbusters, and maybe even they'll have a new Mario Kart ready by that point, because of course they have been milking the ever-living crap out of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and it's time to move on with a new console. time to move on. So yeah, I do think that Peach game that they teased at the last Nintendo Direct might be the first look at what games could look like on this system, or it's just an end of cycle Switch game. Who knows? Who knows for sure? But I do feel like how vague they were with that Peach game, it's because they don't want to talk too much about it because it's for the next console, and that might give things away if they talk about it before they talk about the console, if that makes sense. But yeah. Our second headline from the week, though, is also comes from Video Games Chronicle. Very trusted source. Gotta love them. Appreciate their work. Shout out to them again. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is getting a remake, it is claimed. And this one is written by Chris Scullion at Video Games Chronicle, as mentioned. And it reads like this. It's been claimed that the studio co-developing the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is also working on a remake of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. A Reddit user said to be a former employee of Virtuos made the claim in a now-deleted post on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. The user was reportedly verified by the subreddit's mods as being a legitimate former Virtuos employee. If this verification process was accurate, it could lend more credibility to their claims. According to the user, Virtuos is working on 5 separate projects, of which the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 is only one. The user claims that the studio is also working on Project Alter, which they say is either a remake or remaster of Oblivion, which will make a use of a pairing system that will run the game on both Unreal Engine 5 and the Oblivion engine. For instance, new graphics are rendered in the Unreal Engine 5 project, but most of the gameplay, physics, etc. are still being done in the Oblivion engine, they claim. They also say that the project will be released at the end of 2024 or early 2025, depending mostly on if it's a remake or a remaster, and that the game is mostly being made in Virtuos's Paris studio. So yeah, coming from Virtuos Studio, which is the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake team, which is interesting because we have not yet seen anything from them, so we don't know whether to be excited for this, because we don't know if they're going to be a remake studio that, makes good remakes or bad remakes. Are they going to be another Bluepoint, or are they going to be, a lesser than remake team? It does make me wonder, though, if this rumored Oblivion remake is slated for 2024 or early 2025. Is the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake coming sooner than that, considering that one has been announced? So maybe we'll know whether or not to be afraid of this remake of Oblivion, because if that Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is a slam dunk, which it should be, how can you mess that up? Very easily, I'm sure. But if it hits and everyone loves it, then I'll get excited for this Oblivion remake, because right now it's a little worrying, because I don't know if they have the stuff just yet. They very well could. And Oblivion, a very good game. I'm actually even playing it right now because of Starfield coming out in, as of this video, 1 month from now. Of course, early access is earlier than that, but I'm playing every Bethesda Game Studios game up until Starfield, just to see how everything's evolved. And man, Oblivion, what a good time. I'm going to give you a little tease right now. I'm working on a little piece on Oblivion, so that'll be out at some point. No promises on a release schedule on that one, though. It's interesting that it is Oblivion that they're remaking, though. I'd imagine it's because it's not Skyrim, because that game's been released to crap. There are about 7 different releases of that, I think. Maybe 6, 7, something like that. And Morrowind is too old to easily remake, the way that they're talking about it, at least. So Oblivion makes a lot of sense for this remake, because they're saying that it's going to be partially a remake, partially a remaster, with just essentially just the same game with new assets, but the same physics engine, that sort of thing. So I can imagine everything looks prettier, but everything just feels the same on the sticks. If you follow me there, but yeah, I do feel like that just goes to show that Elder Scrolls 6 is so far away, because they're just trying to satiate our appetites on Elder Scrolls content by giving us this remake, because I was really hoping that all of the systems in Starfield were secretly going to be like backdoor entrances into Elder Scrolls 6, so it might be easier to develop and a quicker turnaround, but probably not. That was hopeful thinking. And yeah, Elder Scrolls 6 is probably so far away, so in the meantime, here's a remake of Oblivion. They can't give us another Skyrim release because they would get laughed out of town. They'd get laughed off the stage for that. So Oblivion instead, which, of course, in theory is exciting, but I will wait to see what the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is like before getting too excited for it. So we shall wait and see on that one. And then in a bit of stranger news, we turn to The Verge. Their headline reads as this: Star Wars Jedi Survivor is coming to PS4 and Xbox One. This is written by Jay Peters over at The Verge. The game launched first on Sony and Microsoft's newer consoles, but now it's on the way for older hardware. Star Wars Jedi Survivor will be released on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, EA CEO Andrew Wilson announced during the company's Q1 earnings call on Tuesday. The game launched in April on PS5, Xbox Series S/X, and PC, but skipped Sony and Microsoft's older hardware. So with this new release, people who haven't upgraded to the newer consoles will eventually be able to check out the game. However, we don't know exactly when Jedi Survivor will be coming to older consoles. Here's Wilson's quote about the release. Thanks to the strength of this legendary franchise and community demand, our development team has committed to bringing this Jedi experience to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And that's all I gotta read from that. That's a weird one, because why? I feel like that game already kind of came and people played it. People either loved it or didn't enjoy the bugs. I mean, the game hardly ran on current gen consoles because of the bugs, so those could be fixed theoretically. So I can't imagine this game running on older consoles, but as to why, I mean, it's obvious why, right? It's because of money. They just want to make that Star Wars money everywhere. I mean, obviously it sold very well. I think it's like the top 10 highest selling games this year. I might be speaking out of turn there, but it's sold very well because obviously it's Star Wars. It has that name recognition. Everyone loves a Star Wars. Who doesn't love a Star Wars? It sold very well, but it can sell even better when you have 50 million plus PS4s and Xbox Ones out there. So they're just gonna sell more. That's all they want. Is it gonna run very well? Probably not. Definitely not, I would say. Even it's like, why are they releasing Hogwarts Legacy on the Nintendo Switch still? Because there's so many Switches out there, so there's just so much money that can be made. Is it gonna run at all on the Switch? Probably not, but they're still trying nonetheless. But yeah, it's a weird news story, but it's one I felt like highlighting nonetheless. I think I said nonetheless twice in like the past minute, maybe the past 30 seconds. Anyways, moving on to our last news story. Not really a news story, more a review roundup. And that is for Baldur's Gate 3. As we all know, Baldur's Gate 3 released on PC this past week. And, well, a little preamble on Baldur's Gate 3's release. Its release date got moved up about 2 weeks because it wanted to stay away from Starfield, for PC at least. As such, a lot of the reviewers were not given access to the game until a day before release, if I remember correctly. So a lot of these reviews are reviews in progress and not full-fledged reviews because this game is well over 100 hours long. It's a very deep RPG, and not everyone is able to experience it in 24 hours. So, these are all reviews in progress. So we turn our eyes to the video game review conglomerate site Metacritic. There are actually a few official reviews here, but we're going to look past those because I don't believe them, if I'm being completely honest. We're going to look at the reviews in progress / unscored section of Metacritic. Currently, the game sits at a 94 because of these reviews that shouldn't exist, I feel, but move past them. This write-up comes from Destructoid, written by Eric Van Allen. But whether you just want to experience what a high-production CRPG might have to offer, or romance some companions, or play some virtual D&D, I do think Baldur's Gate 3 brings something for every one of those interests to the table. Embrace the successes and failures. Talk to party members, read the spell text, and you'll be surprised how quickly you're taken in. It's a great start, and I'm hopeful that Larian can keep up the pace moving into the later areas of Baldur's Gate 3. And that was Eric Van Allen's Day 1 impressions. Let's look at a few more. We'll look at two more. Let's look at IGN, trusted review site IGN. Everyone loves IGN. Okay, we all know IGN. This write-up comes from Leanna Hafer. I apologize if I, mispronounce anyone's names. I'm trying, On the whole, I am really loving Baldur's Gate 3 so far. It definitely has some blemishes, from minor bugs to a combat system that I don't exactly adore at lower levels. But I've been waiting 14 years for another alignment of planets like Dragon Age Origins. When an old school CRPG got a big enough budget to look like a high quality animated movie. But the design hadn't been completely steered in the wrong direction in a misguided attempt to reach a different market, like the later two Dragon Ages. This is the closest anyone has ever come to recapturing that magic. Again, that is their review in progress. And let's turn to PC Gamer for our last write-up, because, come on, PC Gamer. This is definitely the type of game you can trust PC Gamer for in terms of their review. And this write-up comes from Fraser Brown. Shout out to people with the last name Brown. Anyways, their write-up reads like this. I might not be ready to give it a score yet, but if it wasn't immediately obvious, Baldur's Gate 3 is utterly brilliant so far. So far. Let's see if it can keep this up for the next 80 hours, and I'll be updating this review in progress in the meantime, so come back for my thoughts on things like co-op and the titular city. Pretty much all of us at PC Gamer are playing it too, so expect plenty of takes, features, and guides on every aspect of this mammoth RPG. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, so far, this game is killing it. Everyone is enjoying it. They're having a great time. And it definitely seems like the kind of game I would get into based on everything that we've been learning about it. And if we're being completely honest, it was the druid scene. The druid scene and the bear. That's the scene I'm talking about. That's when everyone's interest in this game shot up. It's when everyone went, what's going on with that Baldur's Gate 3? Because a game that lets you do that makes you wonder what else it lets you do, So I really like that kind of game, that kind of game where it's like, do whatever you feel in the moment. And that game really seems like it is that kind of game, that kind of RPG where you actually do the role playing and you aren't pigeonholed into a certain direction. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. But yeah, it's definitely too crowded right now, and I don't have a PC beefy enough to play it. And it would come out on PS5 on the same day as Starfield, no less. So definitely won't play it then. And I don't think there's no release date as of now for Xbox consoles because of some parity issues between the X version and S version, which they are working on. Hopefully they get that sorted out, but I probably won't wait that long. I would like to play it before the year is over. So I'm going to end up getting on PS5 probably in November, because that's kind of a slow period. Right after Starfield, Mortal Kombat, Lies of P, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Wonder, Alan Wake 2. After all the dust is settled, I'll pick up Baldur's Gate 3, because I cannot start it the same day Starfield comes out. Otherwise, one of those games is getting left in the dust, and it's not going to be Starfield. And considering how long Baldur's Gate 3 is supposed to be, yeah, I will wait for a down period of time to immerse myself in that world. And I'll probably watch Dungeons & Dragons, the movie, again, because I like that movie, and it was a good intro to that world. But yeah, that's the news of the week. We did it. High five. It's great. It was a great show. I didn't even need to use this extra bit of talking news I had to use in case in case the show ran short. Maybe I'll squeeze it in a little bit, just a little bit. I'll pose this question to you. You can answer it in the comments below, which I hope you do. Starfield, as of this video releasing, is exactly 1 month away, not counting the early access. So what's your plan? Like, what are you doing? How are you spending this last month until Starfield comes out? Personally, as I said earlier, I'm playing through every Bethesda Game Studios game just to go down a walk through memory lane, essentially, because if Starfield delivers, I don't think I'm going to touch any of those games for at least a year, probably. So yeah, I'm just experiencing those again. I'm kind of just waiting, catching up on all these other games before Starfield. I finished Tears of the Kingdom, because if I didn't finish Tears of the Kingdom before Starfield, never going to. Working through Final Fantasy 16, a game that has only fallen further from grace, in my opinion, the longer I play it. So we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, tell me what your Starfield plan is, considering we're a month away. Like, how are you preparing? Did you take the week off? I took the week off of work, me personally, because come on, you got to. But yeah, that's the show. I completely forgot to mention at the top, though, if there are any news stories that you want me to cover that I missed, make sure it doesn't happen again by using the link in the description below to write in with a news story I should talk about, or any topic you want me to talk about. But yeah, how do I usually end these? But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the news stories. What story stuck out to you the most? What's your Starfield plan? And yeah, thanks for watching this episode of Talk About, the show where I talk about the hottest gaming news headlines with you. Until next week, stay safe and play some video games.